everyone, and welcome back to the MAB podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Danielle Harrison. We hope that you have enjoyed our previous two podcasts with Tom Leeper. And if you haven't yet had a chance to listen to those, we recommend that you do. The focus of the MAB podcast is on the who and what we do at Armanino. Today we have the privilege of having Yunna Weinzerl here to talk with us about the real estate industry. Yunna is a tax partner in our LA office and has over 20 years of experience dealing with issues from tax-deferred exchanges, reorganizations, mergers and acquisitions, just to name a few. She is also a featured speaker on real estate taxation and is a member of NOW. Welcome, Yunna, and thank you for being here with us today.
It's my pleasure, guys.
So let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to start off our conversation today with just an overview of the real estate industry. So Yunna, can you just tell us a little bit more about what you do and what excites you about this industry, even after being in it for 20 years?
Mm-hmm. Well, in real estate industries is the industry that every single one of us touches. We live in the buildings. We work in the buildings. We go in and out of the buildings. We walk on land. We park on a parking lot. That's all real estate. Mm-hmm. And even though the industry's basically been here from the beginning of times, the dwellings, people lived in some sort of dwellings since, since the humanity was around, this industry really is changing with economic cycles. There's definite influences of technology on this industry and generational challenges. And so it's interesting how such a stable, such a kind of old, if for the lack of better word, industry that's been around is so nimble and so flexible. Mm-hmm. What I love about this is that, well, a couple of things. First of all, what's interesting to me about real estate, it's a very, very technical field. You need to, I'm talking about the taxation now. Mm-hmm. It's a very technical field, and you really need to understand highly technical areas of partnership taxation, trusts of individuals, and it's ever evolving, as we all know, and it's just fun to be not bored. It's not something, it's never like, oh my God, here we go again, the same thing over and over again. There is some of that, but there is always a curveball that I'm sitting here and scratching my head and I'm thinking, I have never envisioned this, or I've never met this, I've never run into this. Actually, I have one today. I'm looking at the screen and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Mm-hmm. So, and that's exciting and it's challenging, and it makes you. It's intellectually challenging, and it requires you to constantly think about things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think sometimes when people think of real estate, it's like, oh, it's all just the same building, but it's good to hear that there's a lot of challenges that come with it, and it can keep you kind of intellectually engaged all the time.
No, absolutely. And the thing is that in business of real estate, people look at the buildings and they say, well, this is just about the structure. It's a lot less about the structure than it is about the financing, and you need to understand the flow of money, and you need to understand the economic cycles. You need to understand the demographics, who that is, who you're doing this for, and you need to understand. You also need to understand the generational differences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so the real estate definitely has a lot going on. What are the types of clients that you serve?
Well, my client base is primarily middle market. I don't do any REITs, and it's kind of it historically happened that way because we, I came to Armanino as part of the merger with RBZ, and at RBZ, we didn't do anything regulated, so it was kind of not our thing. So REITs, of course, are regulated, or at least most of them are, the public REITs, and so we never had. I never delved into this. So I work with middle market clients, developers, hotel operators, entitlement people. People who only do shopping centers, people who only do, say, commercial buildings, or only do residential buildings. So it's a big variety. And the other thing, which is kind of not obvious. It's obvious to me, but when I start talking to people, it's not obvious to them. I work with people. So when I am, sometimes people make comments, so you work with all these companies. I'm like, well, true, but ultimately, because my clientele is middle market, eventually there may be 100 companies in that particular group, but eventually I'm working with one person, because that's the person who makes all of the decisions. That's the person who writes checks, and that's the person for whom it's vitally important.
Right. That makes sense. So do all these different types of clients, have any common issues that they face? And are there maybe some examples or some solutions that you were able to implement for them?
Well, obviously real estate is an industry which requires a lot of capital. So the commonality between all of them is understanding the flow of money. And that's something we don't necessarily do as Armanino, because we're not a bank,
right?
But that is something that if you wake up any of those real estate guys at night and ask them what's their biggest concern, it's the financing. It's either the financing or capitalization of the project with investors. So on the investor side, definitely we can help them a lot. We can help them with the investor relations, and that's not obviously K1s, obviously tax returns. Even, beyond that, is how to structure different entities so that investors are in a better position than they otherwise would have been, or how to structure it in such a way that maybe investors are indifferent to this, but the sponsor is getting significant tax benefits. So there's a lot of planning that goes in on the front end that has to do with that.
Can you just go into a little bit detail about who's the sponsor, who's the investor for those who don't work in the industry?
So this is kind of a industry speak. So so let's say for example, I decide to build a new hotel in downtown San Francisco, and I come to you and I say, hey, listen, I know I have the know-how, I have the permits, I have everything. To start building, I just need the money. And you say, hey, funny you should ask, because I actually have the money. So in this scenario, and you invest in quote unquote my project. So I'm the one who's running the operation, where you would be an investor in this circumstance and I would be a sponsor.
Got it. That makes sense. Who would you say is your favorite real estate client?
Oh man, it's a love-hate relationship.
There's always got to be one that you really enjoy working with.
Yes. So I have this one favorite client. I've been working with them for a long time. It's the reason why I really like working with him is because the client himself comes up with the financial structures and how he sees real estate. You know, he sees in projects certain things that other people don't see.
Mhm.
How he can reposition and what can he do and how can he find financing. So it's usually very complex structures, and that's what makes it fun for me to work with him, because he does things very uniquely, and I don't see it anywhere else. And the flip side of this, of course, is like everything is it's like sometimes you're like, can you just do something straightforward?
Give you something simple to do.
Yeah, and you know, obviously when structures are so complex and you know the deals are happening fast, usually attorneys and accountants are you know left to clean up the mess after they made the deal, and you know you're like, well, these documents aren't signed and this is not done and this is not done, and it's a lot of cleanup.
Right, which makes sense. And these transactions happen year round, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, one buys in January. It can be any point in time, even during tax season.
Yes, that's sadly enough, he has no regard for my tax deadlines.
Yeah, no, I imagine not. Really, sometimes you got to move real quick.
Yep.
So definitely understandable. Are there some other departments within Armanino that you collaborate with in order to help serve your clients?
Yes, primarily two.
Okay.
One is international. And the reason why international is because a lot of my clients look for capital outside of United States, and they bring international investors. Obviously, the structures that work for domestic investors don't work for international investors. So that is one thing, you know, that I collaborate with our international group. Thank God we have a lot of them in West LA, so I don't have to go very far. So that's something that is very important. And another thing is our I'm not sure, is it a separate department now, trust and estates, or is it part of high net worth? Let's just say I collaborate with trust and estates people. And again, that has to do with the fact that you know, most of the sponsors, you know, the real estate people, they're also high net worth people. So they also they have a lot of the same issues that any other high net worth person would have, is estate planning and setting up trusts and how to handle those trusts, and you know, who are the beneficiaries and what do we do with these beneficiaries, and do we distribute money to these beneficiaries, or shouldn't we? And so there are a lot of issues that are not unique to real estate high net worth people, but they're unique to high net worth people.
Right. And so what I'm hearing is real estate, it isn't just, oh, you do this tax return that has a building in it and that's it. For your clients, you're really doing the whole thing, from the ownership return where the building is all the way down their trusts and individuals and a lot of planning.
Oh yeah. You know, that's right now, right before you called, you know, I'm sitting here trying to get all the trusts out.
Yes, absolutely. So in this VUCA world, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, where do you see the real estate industry going, and what are the opportunities that lie ahead?
Well, I'm sure you remember 2008, 2007, 2008. You know, the crisis, the financial crisis that was, I guess depends on who you're talking to, but let's just say a significant contributor to that financial crisis was the subprime mortgage market, right? So that's something that people remember in real estate, unfortunately not as well as they should remember it, but they still do remember this. And that's a big risk, because it's in like you and me, when we buy our houses, most of us take out 30-year fixed mortgage.
Right.
That's not how the commercial real estate operates. The mortgages are 5, 7, 10 years, and then they adjust, and they might be these people, they have in many ways they have to have crystal ball, because they're signing up for something today when the economy could turn 5 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with developers. Huge uncertainty, because you've got, let's say today you're building starting something today. Well, it takes 3-4 years to build something, right?
Right.
We're talking about big development. Well, in 3-4 years, the world could change.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think about in 2004, where real estate had nowhere to go but up. In 2007, the bottom fell out.
Mm-hmm.
So there is definitely a lot of uncertainty there. The other thing is that how technology changes the world. Let's say, for example, retail. I don't know about you, but aside from going and grocery shopping, I don't go to brick and mortar stores anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We have Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a shopping center, or if you're a strip mall owner, how do you, as they call it, Amazon proof your real estate? What are you gonna do with this? So going to the store is no longer just going to the store is no longer an option. So they have to make it into some sort of a lifestyle thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably not going to go to, let's say, CVS, but maybe if you go and there is a Pilates studio, and then a nail salon, and I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of a music playing on the side, and then there's a cafe. Hey, all of a sudden you remember that you need something from the CVS, and you walk in. But basically, shopping centers changed dramatically in the last 20 years. What people expect of them.
Right, and that's true. The real estate industry then has had to kind of evolve as a result of all of that as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. And even such mundane thing as apartments. It's interesting. I have a client who's constructing a brand new apartment building, and his target audience are young professionals. And by young professionals, we're talking mid-20s,
Mm-hmm.
that work for tech companies. Well, it's interesting, the things that he puts in this building is very different from what I would be looking for. The apartments are tiny, but there is a lot of public space. There's Wi-Fi here, and public space here, and it's just interesting that it's a completely different. So he's changing the project to target his demographics, and actually, interestingly enough, they are ahead of the time a little bit. They're reinforcing the roof, because they're thinking that in 3 to 5 years, Amazon will deliver by drones. So they're so they're ready for that.
Crazy.
The world is constantly changing. You never know what they're going to come up with next. Finally, to summarize in a nutshell, why would you recommend someone to choose real estate as their specialty?
Well, listen, I think that first of all, first and foremost, I'm a tax person, right?
Right.
So if you like complex things, if you like kind of a digging in and figuring things out, it's a field for you, as it's not straightforward. And also the thing is the especially with the type of clients I'm working with, you kind of see the whole cycle from the project to all the way how it affects their personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very exciting. That's, you kind of see all different aspects of this. And then when you get in and you start understanding your client's business, a lot of the things, and you start talking to your clients about this, that, and the other, it's interesting how your perspective changes on what you read in papers. Hey, interest rate cuts is actually a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you like intellectual challenge, I would think that this is a great place to be. And if you like to see the full cycle, that's also a place to be.
And probably tons of opportunity too. So there's lots of ideas of what different clients are doing and just tons of
Oh,
growth.
definitely. Definitely, yes, definitely tons of opportunities, and just maybe you pick up a tip or two when you're buying your own a little apartment building on the side.
Exactly. They kind of help you when you're
Yeah,
diversifying your portfolio too with that.
exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Yunna, for spending the time with us today, especially during tax season, to talk about the real estate industry and really give us an in-depth dive. So thank you again.
It's my pleasure.
Please stay tuned for our next podcast with David Arard on REITs.